See ya. All right, Joe here, Profit First Reseller, and we got a special guest over here to my right. We got Mike, Squirrel Brain Optimist Reseller on YouTube. So, Mike, so glad you joined me today, man.
Sweet, yeah. Not much on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel-ish, but I'm just more hanging out with Joe today.
No, but again, I think just like me, I think you consider yourself more of a professional reseller, and you kind of do YouTube on the side when you feel like it. But it is kind of an awesome insight into your life, and also you share a lot of your journey on the tech and sports Facebook group as well, where you're one of the call leaders, one of the mentors over there as well. So, man, I'm so excited to get into all this with you, and kind of like essentially what I really want to get into today is kind of an overarching topic. Whether or not we stick to it closely or not, we'll be determined, I guess. But
yeah, that's
essentially,
I'll go this way or that way, or you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's going to be part of the fun. That's why podcasts are so fun. But I kind of want to get into the journey of being an adult who's realized they might have ADD in this business. You know, we were just getting into it before the call here, and I recognize there's actually a lot of similarities where neither one of us have been officially diagnosed with ADD. So maybe we'll talk more about squirrel brain or just the general tendencies here today. Because again, neither one of us have been formally diagnosed.
Don't take medical advice from us. We can't.
Of course not.
We can't diagnose or whatever.
Yeah,
distracted easily.
Yes.
We might be able to give you some helpful tips and stuff that we still struggle with,
I Googled squirrel brain a little while ago. And it's funny. I think it's a more recent term. What actually comes up when you Google squirrel brain is like the dangers of eating squirrel brains, which I thought was hilarious.
Right.
But I think it typically means it's just that typical anecdote about ADD where you might be having a conversation and then you might be distracted by a squirrel and say, oh, squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the kind of shiny object syndrome. And what I think we have a similarity in is as we've gotten into eBay reselling, we found a lot of people talking about this kind of language. I first heard about squirrel brain from Daily Refinement years ago when he was talking about struggling with it himself as a full-time reseller, which I totally related to. So what was your journey there? Like, how did you first hear about that? What was your moment of like, oh my gosh, that might apply to me? What was your journey there?
I think I've always known it. It's been kind of obvious underlining, but uniquely, it's like someone comes into your life and just sometimes pokes you and wakes you up or something happens. And Sheila, who's a great gal in the Reseller Greatness group, she's like known as the doll lady. She's always been on the toy call, so I host the toy call on tech and sports Facebook group. I'm not the end-all expert in toys. I just host, do what I can to teach people, but there's people above me and below me and all around. But we would engage in conversations all the time. She's like, have you ever looked into and it wasn't hurtful in any way. She's like, have you ever looked into ADHD? Because I think you might have it. I don't know how she said it. But even though it was always an underlying thing, and I always just, even going way back to, Chris's conversations of squirrel brain, I was definitely just recognizing that's me. And then if I travel back all of my life, I see these patterns of disorganization of the desk or even in my car, weird behaviors I'm going to actually take the water bottle out of my car today. And then there's 10 water bottles in there. And then there's 10 water bottles in there. And just weird, why can't I get this right when everyone else just, and my wife is very lined up. When she leaves the car, these two things come out. Her sunglasses are always in the thing. And me, I'm where's the sunglasses? Where's the sunglasses? They could be anywhere every day. And even if I'm trying to fix that, they just, so anyways, long story short, Sheila was you need to look into, I can't remember the girl, but there's a YouTube girl who has a big, it thinks I can't remember her name, but she has a big channel on ADHD. So I started watching that. Mm-hmm. And then I also looked at Enneagrams. I don't know if you've ever gone down the Enneagram path.
Yeah, sure. My dad, my parents are really into that. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. Yeah.
I'll have to share a guy. He's wonderful. I mean, everyone I think will enjoy it, but he's also another YouTube guy. And there's these personality types, and you start to learn, I guess you'd call it neurodivergency or how different brains. So I just started coming to recognizing based on Sheila being you should look into this, which took me down the road of the doctors that are on YouTube and all the different people. And I just kind of, in my mind, was I don't really want medication. Not that for some people it's not helpful, but I want to see if I can just battle this thing. Just enjoy it, take it for what it is. We know many, many people across the world that are incredibly successful, from musicians to artists to one of the ADHD guys, doctors says the guy who invented the wheel probably was ADHD.
Hmm.
There's a lot of creative people that just are not as lined up, and that's where ideas come from and inventions. And so anyways, I just kind of saw all these symptoms. You can go back to like the main psychology book out there, and it lines up like, hey, if you got 8 out of 10 of these, or I don't know the quantity, you probably are ADHD. My diagnosis is just my own self reading through some psychology books, listening to a lot of YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, I got a problem. But when you look into it, you start to realize it's not really a problem. And when you understand you have it, then you can go, okay, this will help me with that. And this will help me with that. And I'm probably going to be way better at a lot of people at some tasks and really poor at others. So maybe I should delegate, or maybe I should get staff, or maybe I should, there's this story, and I'll let you go. I'm on a big tangent, but I can't remember what book it is. A story about a CEO, like very successful guy, high level, making money, could never keep his desk clean. And he just kept telling himself, oh, this week's going to be the week. I'm going to keep my desk clean. Bam, messy desk. Bam, messy desk. Battling. And finally, he just realized, I'm going to hire an assistant that will clean my desk. But he said for like 20 years, so I think you have to recognize like that of battling and being like, this person always can do it. Why can't I? And live in that battle. Sometimes there's just a different path you need to take. And it might be saying, you know what? It looks like my desk is going to be messy unless someone else comes in. But I also am intrigued by actually just fighting the battle too. Maybe I can do it. Maybe there is a way. So I don't want the give up mentality, but I think you should also recognize when maybe outsourcing something, or like having someone else do your numbers. If you can never get your numbers right, maybe you're not a numbers person and someone else needs to do the numbers. So anyway, that's a long.
Oh, so much of what you're saying is resonating, man. I appreciate it. I want to circle back a little bit. You mentioned the Enneagram, which is kind of like a personality profile test, kind of like a Myers-Briggs, which is a little more popular one. And you mentioned it as a kind of introduction, or as a way to give you an insight into neurodivergence, which I've actually never thought about before. But in a way, these personality tests are kind of showing us in a way that all of our brains are structured differently. And you mentioned how a lot of these different traits resonated with you. So what was it about the Enneagram, or about these ADD profiles in general, that resonated with you in particular?
Well, the Enneagram was really helpful to sit my wife, because my wife was fascinated by it. So it actually helped all of the inner stuff that was going on inside of me that I couldn't verbalize to her. It was like a third party person saying, I think I'm, and that's the thing, I don't even remember if I'm Enneagram 7 or which one it is. I'm not going to text her now, but that Enneagram fits me. I mean, you look at astrology and it's fun to look at, and then you might read your horoscope, and very accurate sometimes, and then it's really off. But the Enneagram seems to be, I haven't looked deep into the science behind it, but basically I've got my wife sitting there on YouTube being like, that's totally you. Were like, she's laughing hysterically because this guy's like, they don't like to do this and they like to do that, and you like to do this and you're more apt to do that. And for her and us, and relationally, it was incredible. And also for me to be like, oh, I see why you like to do this and why you have relationships this way. So that was a wake-up call. In just that Enneagram just so lines up with entrepreneurial spirit, the one that I fall into. I will probably can text you like his name, and then you could maybe add it to the bottom of the YouTube or something if you want.
Sure, if you like, I'd love that. Yeah.
Or just share it to you privately. But like that guy is great. You can go through, and then he also does like the match for those of that have a partner. He gives them matches and says like, this is why you guys struggle with this or that, because this Enneagram clashes with this, but then this one supports the other. Very fascinating. But yeah, that Enneagram kind of had a little bit of the ADHD feeling in mine as well. Always chasing the dopamine rush, always going so deep into stuff, starting really strong into something, and then like getting bored and dying out. And a lot of the behaviors, So
yeah, sure. Yeah, I can never remember which Enneagram number I am either. I wish it was easier to remember. But the fact that they're numbers, I feel like it makes it extra hard.
I think
so as far as these traits, what do you think about it that allows it to kind of mesh with reselling so well? You talk about these traits like dopamine seeking, or maybe hyperfixation, which I want to get into, but I also started to hear more about this just in the reselling space, because I think there's something about this business. Maybe it's just because it's kind of a bunch of, it's like a way for, entrepreneurial types to kind of start a small business with low overheads. Maybe I know there's overlap with entrepreneurs in general, but I wonder like what kind of drew you to eBay reselling, and like why do you think there's the connection there?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm basically with the not limited studying I've done, but I text you to do that. There's definitely a pattern in studies. I think scientifically, there's enough studies that say there's a lot of ADHD people in the entrepreneurial space. So there is something, we're wired a little different. And there's some coach guy who has like a coach thing where he helps like people with their business. He said 50 something percent, 1 out of 2 is like ADHD in this entrepreneurial program. So yeah, there's definitely like a tendency. You were kind of asking how I got into eBay in a way.
Yeah. Do you find that it meshes together? But I would love to hear kind of like how
Yeah,
eBay. But was that tied to your kind of the way that your brain is structured, or was that just kind of happenstance?
I mean, my general study, a great book that I'm not even all the way through yet, is ADHD 2.0. And I can only recommend it as a phenomenal book for the first few chapters because I haven't seen where it goes. But there's so much in there where to be honest, Joe, I literally had like tears coming down my face because it was like hitting me like, this is me. Like it was just a really weird wake up, like chapter 1. So I'd encourage anyone who thinks, Joe and I don't get any kickback if you get ADHD 2.0, but that book, chapter 1, you'll know like, wow, I maybe fit into this mold. But in that book and videos, there's a lot of pleasure seeking with ADHD, a lot of like, you're kind of lacking levels of dopamine, I guess, and you're trying to get it. And why wouldn't reselling like fuel that? Because it's always something new. Oh, I found this turtle, and it's complete. And every level of like, and I paid 3 and I can sell for 50. It's like this constant rush. I don't know. Like, I think, but I think that's why, look at death piles in the reselling community. And I've been guilty of having that. Look at the over shopping. Like, I think there's a lot of people almost have that dysfunction of like the adrenaline. Guess what? If our mind isn't, like, using tech for a reference, if we don't have that machine 40 a day, 7 days a week, like if we can't pull ourselves together in the organization side, well, we fade off because the dopamine isn't quite as there for a lot of us when you're listing. And it's mundane. You're dragging photos over, you're typing titles. It's a lot of brain work. But when you're out in the field, you're like, $50, this is going to be worth $60. But then to make that a reality, deeper work comes. And I've noticed, I've got reseller guys I've known that just list 40 a day, 364 days a year. They might miss 1 day or they never miss a day, hell or high water. And I'm like, why can't I do that? Why am I hitting 9 one day, 42 the next, 18 the next? What was helpful for me is to think about it as averages, and I have not perfected that, but I'm like, what is my average daily amount listed for the month?
Totally.
And that came a lot from you. I was like, wait, he just mentioned in his video, he's like, not listing this weekend. I'm like, brain explode, because not that tech was teaching us improperly, but tech was teaching us how he did it. And how he did it was, I never miss. I'm consistent. Consistent listings brings consistent money. It's all true stuff. Yeah. But the mold wasn't fitting for me because I'm like, my wife works full time. I'm pretty much a stay-at-home dad and eBay. So I'm with my 9-year-old daughter, 50 hours of the week, and I have to make. So I'm doing breakfasts, I'm doing lunches, I'm doing dinners, I'm doing bedtime, and I'm sourcing and I'm trying to list and photo. And a lot of times it's 10:30 at night. And, I only got 1 kid, Joe, and one wears me out, But yeah, I just woke up to this battle of like, where am I failing? Why are other people having easier times at certain things than I am? And how can I get better? So yeah, I'm looking at like a lot of tools. Like here's a timer, here's a timer, here's a timer. Like, the Pomodoro technique, they often say, like, this still doesn't always work for me perfectly.
And Pomodoro, is that 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off?
I think it's technical. I've always done it a little differently. I can pretty much run it for an hour is how I like to do it. But a lot of people, I think it's about 20 on, 5 off.
Oh, 5 off. Yeah.
or something like that, or maybe
Yeah.
10 off.
No, I think you're right.
But you could probably just Google Pomodoro timer. And for some of us, when this is ticking down, the ADHD, or my brain at least, locks in a little bit because I'm looking at that clock and I stay on task. If this isn't running, I'm like, oh, let me check the news in the middle of listing. Like, what am I doing? Or texts are coming through. And so things like that to hold you accountable have been just one tool. And I don't know how I got over to that, but
No, I love it, man. So much of what you're saying, I love it, man. And I think what tech preaches, tech talks a lot about listing every day. And I think that that's basically a model, right? And there's a lot of models that work. And I think that tech's teaching a model that works for the vast majority of people, because if you want eBay to be a business, you need that core consistency. And so the most basic, and I think the most fundamental thing to build your consistency on in an eBay business is probably listing. You have to list. So if you're going to do anything every day, it should be listing, which I agree. So I agree with them on that, but I don't think there's any magic to the algorithm. It's just, there's a magic to when you keep putting items into your store, you will see results eventually. But it's just about the input, I think, at the end of the day, and the output. I think if eBay was really going to punish you for not listing every day, I think that they would be more open about that. I don't think they'd have like some secret rule where they're punishing some percentage of their sellers that are otherwise offering a really fine service. You know what I mean? Like they have a lot of guidelines. So I don't think it's a requirement in that sense, but I think it's a really excellent starting point.
yeah,
And it's what I'm resonating with so much hearing you talk about too, is you talk about your wife and how she is this kind of like organized side, which I so relate to. My wife, Heather, is like so organized and so into the numbers and in the paperwork. And it has allowed me almost to maybe accentuate whatever squirrel brain parts of me that are at least beneficial. I think in a lot of ways, relationally, this is not the best brain type to have. I think you need to really train yourself to be a good partner in a lot of ways. And that's why I like the Enneagram specifically, even more than Myers-Briggs in some ways, is because the Enneagram really is about relationships as well. So much of it, when you're reading about your type, it's about in relationship with others and in relationship with the other types. Here's the different, hard parts you might have, or here's where you might have a superpower. And so I'd love to hear you talk a little more about you and your partner. Like, how long have you guys been married? And is she involved in the business, or is she just handling more of the life side? And how does that kind of help you with your brain and her brain? Because now you're like a team brain, and like you can't discount that either.
My wife and I have been married many, many, many years. And I feel like I've probably molded to her a lot, but I feel like I'm very stubborn. And because I'm this way, like I'm going to do this, even like high risk things. She's like, wait, you're doing what now? She's really, I think, learned to let go and be like, let me fly, which has been beautiful and amazing. And I think she's dialed me in a lot to like, sorry, get over it. You're doing this. So it's just been this perfect balance. It's taken a very long time. There's been plenty of argument. I mean, that's what good marriage is made on, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, my wife has really, I think one of the most important things, and I see sometimes like in the reseller community or text group, like sometimes there is that relationship. They'll post something, hey, my wife's not sure of this. Like, I think you have to have a partner, at least from the beginning, that is at least on board with it. Like, hey, like, let's say your wife or husband is not entrepreneurial and you are. I think you kind of have to at least have someone saying, okay, give it a go. And my wife was when I first met my wife, I mean, I was very young. I had a videography company, small. I was filming weddings and doing like promo videos for like an air conditioning company. Like I would film the air conditioning truck in front of a house. And then I would this was way back. I initially went to film school before I got an associate's degree and a film certificate. And then I left film school. I actually got a job with VH1. So I just jumped out of school. I'm like, I'm going to go work in the movie business. And I jumped out.
Wow. VH1 in what year?
This is funny. I worked on, do you remember the show Pickup Artist?
Yeah, sure. With like Mystery?
Mystery.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I drove Mystery around in different cars.
I watched that show.
Mystery up and the big brunt guy from the airport.
Wow.
Pretty unique.
Wow.
But I
just remember he had a big floppy hat. That's mostly
big hat, all black leather and buckles and chains. And
so silly.
So I was on Pickup Artist season 2. I wasn't on it. I was a lowly production assistant, so bottom of the chain. But I was motivated, like I am to this day, and I'll swing this back around to my wife, but there's a lot of funny movie stories and TV stuff. But yeah, anyways, I went to film school. I was really motivated, and this guy came in with a grip truck. I don't know if you're familiar with the term grip in the film
really.
business. There's like a gaffer, which is electric, and lights is oftentimes like the gaffer, and then the grip. It's weird. The lighting guys come in and move the lights, but the grip sets up like where the lights are going to attach to and go. It's like this weird conjunction of things. Okay. But anyways, this guy came to the community college, brought in his big grip truck. He's got a great business in Arizona now. This guy named Jared. It's called Pirate Grip. And he's like this cool skull and crossbones on the truck. And it's just got all this it's almost like that roadie band, type wires and cord. Yeah, you like that stuff. Wires and cords.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Is this a one-man business kind of a thing too, or just a small business?
Like big truck, and basically it was a film set on wheels, because the grips kind of have all the stuff. But anyways, long story short, I ended up, and this is a total side tangent story, so I'll try to be fast. But I just was motivated, when he came and he gave this speech at the school, and it was Scottsdale Community College in Arizona, and truck came in, everybody talked. And I always had, I think I give myself a little pat on the back, but I always had a little bit of wit to be well, if I want to be like a grip, I should probably when everyone's done with the presentation, ask the guy if he needs help. And sure enough, he gave his presentation, and I think this is the entrepreneur in me. Everybody was like, that was cool. And they went back to class, and I stayed in the truck, and I was like, hey, do you ever need any help? And that's where I would encourage anyone who's trying to be an entrepreneur or trying to talk to a millionaire or trying to if you just ask, it goes so far. So I just said, hey, I'm in film school, as you can tell. Thank you for the presentation. It was really amazing. I'll work for free, on a job if you ever have them. And he's like, okay, took my number. And 4 days later, he's called me. He's like, we got a gig. Will you come out? And I was working on these smaller production film things. Then all of a sudden he's like, no, I'll pay you. Then I got paid. And then all of a sudden there was this thing called The List. It's probably way more in New York or Hollywood, but you get on a production assistant list, and it starts to be passed around. And that's excuse my language, it's the peon job. Hey, go get the ice for the cooler. Hey, carry the heavy thing. You're sweating, it's take out the trash job, not that that's beneath me, but anyways, long story short, I got into that, and that's where eventually I got on a production assistant list. And because I was performing decently, people start to call you, and it moves up the ladder. And all of a sudden, Sony's calling, and then VH1's calling, and you're working on these big TV shows. But circling back, because that was a way big diversion.
No, it's interesting. Yeah.
Meeting my wife, I thought it was so cool because I had my own. I must have been 20. She would know. I don't remember dates. That's why. Everything is in my head. I don't remember numbers even to date. I was 22 or something. She would tell you were actually 20. I don't.
I can tell. So she, in the group brain, she's the one who stores the dates.
I don't remember ages. Literally very important things. I do not store them in here. She does. It's crazy. So I handed her this business card, and I thought it was so cool. It said Arizona Wedding Films, because that was one of our little trade names. And I was yeah, we should talk sometime. Gave her my card. I was my flex back but so what I'm saying, my point is, my wife, day one, was this guy's works for himself. So I started with her as being I'm working on films. Then I went into organic food and farming. Then I did shoe design and construction and all kinds of so many different business types of things. So I think the partner is important right out the gate. There has to be enough both ways for them to be I guess this guy I'm courting is always doing something new. And my wife was really gracious in that. I always found a way to scrounge up money through some wild endeavor. I think she trusted in that. She liked some aspect of it, I guess, or liked me enough to be along for the ride. So I don't know if that answers any of your question, because it was a massive.
No, I'm fascinated, man. And now looking behind you, you have an actual business. I mean, it's very clear. How did you go from, like you said, skipping around to all these different businesses or smaller jobs to now, this is a full-time business. It seems like for you with eBay. And
Yeah,
so what was that journey? How did you find your way into
that's a
having this
great question.
beautiful space and all this?
That's
Yeah.
that's a really great question. What it is, I think, and it also lines up with neurodivergency or ADHD, is like you're always into one thing and you're all in, and then you're like, wait, I'm going to try this, and we see that among not all entrepreneurs, but we see that in the eBay community. Wait, maybe I should do whatnot. Wait, maybe I should cross list. Maybe I should do this, and we get really spread kind of thin.
Yeah.
What I learned doing, I thought I was going to work on big time movies. That was my stage one entrepreneurial thing. I was
Well,
in
that's
film.
probably what you're telling yourself when you're going in, running and getting that heavy stuff and doing those jobs
Yeah,
like you're
right.
saying. But at least that is a ladder that you would
Yeah.
think about escalating. That makes sense.
And
Yeah.
that moved to like, they were calling me in California for The Biggest Loser. They wanted me to work on The Biggest Loser.
Yeah.
But guess what? I just fell in love with this girl in Arizona who was very connected to her family. And what would that take? That would take me taking a 20-year-old girl and going like, we're going to California, right? And there was just this weird stop there. So that was almost like life stopping me maybe from that pursuit. It was interest in my wife, like, hey, I like this chick more than film maybe. So it weirdly crashed, and I try to do things locally. But I think everything I see leading up to reselling, a lot of the reason I finally stuck going from movies, organic food and farming, and shoe design and construction, and because I was trying to build and make shoes and create a footwear line. I mean, I was building shoes in New York. I was making cowboy boots in Oklahoma. I was hand sewing leather. I mean, you name it.
Oh, wow.
And all of these endeavors, like I got really deep into them, and there was like some sort of, I don't know, life point that stopped it. We'll call it God or call it the plan. Who knows? There was just like a weird thing that occurred. And some of it was like the brain I had too is just like, wait, I'm not into this anymore. Just like a dead stop. But long story short, it was a matter of getting old and maturing, I think, that got me into eBay, because I'm like, you're out of time to keep switching. You're out of time to keep trying. You better pick something. So to get back to your question, the main reason reselling worked is because the other things, it's not that they weren't working. Each one of them, I made it very far. In the movies, I had Sony Pictures calling. Most people would be like, that's a pretty good accomplishment. In shoe design and construction, I was studying with I was talking with James Somerville, who was on Project Runway and built shoes. And I was studying with Marcel, who is Savannah College of Arts and Design, like one of the top shoe designers in the world. And I was like an amateur dude, like with all the top people. And I kept rising to the top of these entrepreneurial things and like burning out or realizing they would take huge moves. Most of them were, one move was going to need to be to New York. The other one needed to be to California. I don't know. Something just blocked those as I went. And then I realized, dude, I'm not getting any younger. And if I just spend hours and hours getting high up into something and not quite making the money and then dive out, like this is not a plan for success in life. Like there's not a lot of clout in being like, oh, I built shoes with this famous guy if there's no money in the bank, like the story sounds cool. But everything was kind of like, I was seeing myself really excel. I was seeing myself get to the top of all of these categories and be surrounded with the highest level professionals. And then I was like just fading out. And then I realized time is ticking. And reselling came about probably, I'm trying to think of I don't remember the exact path. Oh, what it was is I went back to regular old work. I always had regular old work. I was a shoe salesman, like all of 13, 14 years. I worked for Nordstrom. First I worked for Robinson May, which is no longer a business, Dillard's, Saks, and Nordstrom. And I was the glorified Al Bundy, man. I was selling women's shoes, but Nordstrom was a little upscale. And
that could be a career, right?
And you could make, I think, if you bust your butt like a beast, you could make like 60 grand a year. And that was back years ago.
Okay.
So 60 grand, maybe 10 years ago as a guy with no college and left college. Yeah. But now maybe So anyways, I was selling shoes and I was performing really highly with Nordstrom. I was doing over $600,000 a year in sales. I was the top dude, and I was able to go nowhere. I was like, wait, I'm like the best guy in the region. I'm selling all this stuff, and there's just no growth. Management path was making less money. It's like I could make more money as a salesperson. And then, I don't know how old I was, but I was maybe in my 30s, and I started to have people that were like 20. Not that there's anything wrong with being young, but I had people much younger than me becoming my manager and telling me how to do this and how to do that. And that entrepreneurial thing was like rising up in me. Like, I don't want someone telling me when to come, when to go. And the toy thing comes about because I created a private label product, launched it onto Amazon, and it was a prank and gag based novelty product. Like old pranks, like fake poop and gum that shocks your finger and candy that you put in your mouth and it turns it blue. And I was doing normal Amazon flips. I was going to Walmart, buying stuff in the package and flipping it on Amazon. And then I built this private label and it went really well. It got ranked like 4,000 to 5,000 in toys, which I don't know if you're familiar with rank. Whoa. But so holiday season, I was ranking like 4,000 to 5,000 in toys on a private label product.
On your brand?
My product.
Wow.
With barely any brand. It was just like a bundle. You know how people did bundles? Yeah. I wasn't even like the level of these killer private label guys who have like all the paperwork behind their product. This is like basically like a bundle. I had labels on it. It just started to work. It was killing it. Like, you can imagine a 4,000 rank toy in December,
Wow. Were you doing FBM or FBA?
FBA.
Yeah. Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And then it went viral on TikTok. It wasn't that it went viral, but there's this guy, like a multi-million follower kind of guy. He started using my product in all of his videos, and it started hitting like 11, 12 million views on his video. And he was holding my product up at the start of the video.
Yes.
And he was
amazing.
Using like my product with no ever attachment to me. He just was like using it and I didn't care. So anyways, that got me really a lot of business. So then I got a little over leveraged by taking out loans to cover inventory and keep this thing because I couldn't keep up. And then COVID came and COVID just axed that entire business. Literally. I was getting like 20 to 30 products from overseas, China. My bundle took so many components, and all of a sudden Amazon put these restrictions. Hey, we're limiting what can come in. And I had money loaned out for the product. I had companies writing me, we can't get that. We can't get this anymore. It's backed up to this. The shipping trucks are backed up. And literally that whole thing pretty much dived. But I guess my point.
So it wasn't the demand that died. It was your supply. You weren't able to keep all the supply.
And Amazon uniquely, when that occurred, they took, to tell you what you could send in, they took a 12-month average, and I had a Q4 product only, really. So they looked at my year and they said, okay, you should be able to send this much in a month based on a yearly.
Right.
But I was hitting so high in that fourth quarter, it didn't take into account everything. So they gave me a really low number of what I could send in. Then I couldn't get the product. So anyways, long story short, it was pretty much dead. And I had money borrowed. I was like, okay, I got to pay people back when this product was supposed to do that because it was performing perfectly. So that was like a shakeup in life. We rebounded from that. But when I was at Nordstrom selling shoes and that product began to take off was when I told my wife, I said, I'm out. We're going to jump ship. It wasn't even that big then. It wasn't gone viral. It hadn't been doing, it was just making a regular paycheck. And I told my wife, this could go another deep story. I don't know how much time you got, but I told my wife, I'm going to dumpster dive and I'm going to run this Amazon product. That's a great wife I have. Tell your wife you're going to dumpster dive. And she's,
she believes in you, man. And I can almost see the strategy because it's like a high cost business balanced out with like a no cost business. You got to boost up profits a little bit. I get that.
I knew eBay then, and I knew Facebook Marketplace, and I already had been savvy to flipping and things like that. And I knew like we were always living in apartments then. So every day I would drive past the dumpster on my way out to work, and I'd be like, oh, dude, that's like a killer coffee table. Oh, well, that's like what, a KitchenAid mixer? What the heck? And I would just put it in the car, come home, put it on Facebook Marketplace and go, hey, just turn this free coffee table into $80. Just turn this KitchenAid mixer into $100. And people were like showing up at the door because when you get it out of the dumpster and you're like, this is a $300 KitchenAid, you put it up for $100, someone comes quick, you know? So I started to see that pattern to where literally I had, because of the Amazon business, I had this big van I bought. It was perfect for trash hauling, you know, out of the dumpsters. And yeah, that's what I did. I would literally leave the house in the middle of the night, 9-10 p.m., flashlight, gloves, little picker, and I would come home with that whole van full. And you would love it. Like I was literally getting video game systems and games. Like there are these college kids, I guess, who were like, I'm over this. And they would kind of gently put it in the dumpster, right? So you'd have like, I'd look and this wasn't every day. So I don't want anyone to think like, just look in your dumpster and you're going to get rich. This is a guy who's going out nightly. But I would come home with like an Xbox, 5 games, a controller, a video camera. So I started flipping all this stuff on eBay because then I started going, hey, I could put like this stuff on eBay. And that was working. If you were good at like bicycles, bicycles were endless. I had like 50 bicycles in like a month. They were just everywhere. So if you know,
for free,
just people put them. Yeah. I mean, out my window right here, I'm in the office I rent. There's a dumpster right over there. I saw a kid putting all these bags out. I have them right here. I'm going to show you.
Oh, I love this. Did you get a bike?
Not a bike.
So curious. Man, I'm all about the free inventory. That gets me so stoked. Oh, yeah. That's a great brand. That's a nice looking bag. Dang. No stains? Yeah. Cotopaxi? Yeah. Dang.
There's one over Solomon. There's another bag over there.
Yeah, that's a $30 or $40 backpack for sure.
Yeah, so like,
man.
Anyone, if you have no money, there's opportunity just to roam around dumps. And what was she doing? It was a kid putting it. And then actually, it's funny. I ran into the lady and she was like a little more defensive of it than I thought she would be because her kid was putting it by the dumpster and then I started grabbing it. And like she came back and she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, well, are you guys throwing this? She just was it was interesting to have. Normally, most people are like, yeah, take it. But nevertheless, I said, oh, I got my office right here. And if you're just throwing it away, like I wouldn't mind taking it if you're trashing it. And she was fine with it, but it was more of a colder than I'm used to. Most people are like, yeah, take it. That's why I put it on the side of the dumpster.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's probably what got eBay really churning. And a long story. Gotcha. I know all of my stories are long.
No, it's so fascinating, man. And to hear your Amazon intro as well. I also tried selling on Amazon, but I didn't know. Yeah, Amazon is a risky business, man. I appreciate you talking about that. That must have been so hard. So you kind of like, but you were also working on that side hustle with your full-time job. But then at a certain point, you kind of doubled down once you'd already quit Nordstrom at that point.
Yeah, quit Nordstrom and just doing the Amazon product and then supplementing by dumpster diving. To such a funny level. Like, I mean, it was like professional dumpster dive level because I found, go ahead, figure, in the dumpster, construction vests, you know, the yellow and orange. So of course I grabbed them. I got an idea. I was like, wait, I should just wear this while I'm out. Because if I wear this, when the apartment security guard comes along or the policeman comes along, looking, you know, I'm using my brain here. They look in the trash can. They look at me. I got a vest on. You know, they're not maybe trying to kick out a poor homeless guy or something.
Yep.
So I would literally, hey, just wave. Police would drive by, wave. Plus, I was also trying not to scare women. Like, I didn't want because a lady would come out to like throw something away.
Yeah.
Maybe my own pride too, you know, like we don't want some lady. What's this guy doing? You know, so for my own pride to be saved and also to not scare some lady to heck, I would have these vests on. And it's just funny.
Now, are you climbing in there? Do you climb in there?
What's interesting is when you say dumpster diving, people always think you got to get in. I was in like 5% of the time.
Yeah. Gotcha. You can usually reach in. You seem like a pretty tall guy too. I bet you can reach most.
I'm tall. You can lean in, but like, I don't know, 60% of stuff's not in the dumpster. At least in the Denver metro area, there's this mindset of, ooh, this is too good to be thrown away. I'll just stick it to the side. This vacuum still works. I'll just stick it to the side. And I think in most communities, unless they're really locked down, you can drive by dumpsters and find all the good stuff because people, their gut is like, I don't want to throw this away. Maybe if I put it next to the dumpster, someone else will see it and they'll take it instead of it just going to the trash.
I love that. Yeah.
But yeah, you would get into occasionally because you'd see something. You'd be like, like the video game box I got with the Xboxes and all that, that was in, but it wasn't like I'm like, I mean, yeah, sometimes like there's going to be your banana peels and gross smells and it's not all beautiful, but you can almost dumpster dive and stay clean. But I think when you use the term dumpster dive, people think you're like moving to the bottom of the trash, and it's pretty amazing. So and you can get like the little grippers, reach down in, but I'm confident if eBay died today, I could probably make $100,000 a year with free inventory if I full-time dumpstered up. I mean, it's people just throw everything away in America. So
man, that's our whole job. That's why, I mean, Chase After the Right Price and his brother just started a new podcast, and their main refrain is opportunity is everywhere. And I'm hearing that same thing from you here today, man. It's so encouraging to hear that because it's so true. Like we're selling trash and there's just so much opportunity out there if you're willing to look and dig through a few banana peels. Like I have swept so many dead cockroach carcasses off of my surfaces. Like that's my banana peels. I get old electronics and the smoke smells, but I welcome that like that because I'm trying to get these things back into use in the real, like it's good. It's just like a positive circle. So I love hearing that also that was kind of your start and that you're so willing to go back to. Because I think about that too. I think about what's my hard that I'd be willing to go back to that keeps me honest. For me, we came from the restaurant before, and I especially in the very early days of eBay, I would always tell myself I would go work at McDonald's again. If I had to go get a job tomorrow to pay the bills, if I can't sell anything this month, because sometimes you're not sure, I'm like, I can go get a job at McDonald's. They'll probably make me a manager because I used to own a restaurant. They'll be like, why are you applying? And I'm like, because I need to pay the bills. And that would keep me honest. I was just talking to my dad about that. Like I was really, truly in that mindset. And I see you're still there. And I can tap into that so easily still too, of like, this is a business with lots of ups and downs, but that keeps you doing the hard stuff. And I wonder, how do you keep yourself doing the hard stuff when you struggle with ADD, when you are so drawn to novelty, as I found myself, especially earlier in life, and some of it maybe is getting older. I found the same thing, especially with having kids. So that's caused me to seek more of a career and less of just the next shiny object. But how do you keep yourself on task with the day-to-day stuff? Like, do you have any tricks, or how do you, because this is a job for you. You were treating this like a career, which is really amazing. So you really made it quite a turn. I mean, I know you've always been doing businesses, but you really seem to have like treated this like a full-time job.
This has worked. You have a much more producing store than I do. I mean, my store does a good amount, over 6 figures, and I get money to pay the family and bills and things like that. But my store, for me, is not at its level. It needs to about double from where it is to really, because I do have a future vision of getting my wife out of work. And obviously that would allow me all the time to be full in on this. Because right now, for me, like the breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my child, I love doing it. But that stuff comes really easy. I mean, mothers are just mothers. They're great at feeding and playing, and like all that takes my brain more effort. Like I can be actually a little bit worn out from like coming up with doing the voices and playing and all the fun stuff, where my wife's like, she's just a great, women are amazing, But yeah, how I stay on task is sometimes I don't. I mean, I'm still in that cycle. One thing I recently did, which is very, I don't know what I want to say. What's the word? I think it's pretty normal in the resale world, but I just recently hired a VA. And that, taboo is the word I was going to use. There's a lot of people who are like, we'll just shut down that idea, right? No, I did it because what I realized is like my business, I kind of keep hitting about 20 items a day listed. And that's never enough. And my days I hit 30 and 40, I'm like, that's what I need. Kind of 7 days a week, 30, 40 items a day, 7 days a week. There's a lot of extra money flowing in. 20, not so much. And like the guy with the messy desk, that the desk is always messy and it's always messy and it's always messy. For a long time, Joe, in this business, I'm like, still not got this beautiful facility right behind me, but I've got over 300 brands categorized. I mean, there's stuff around here that's so precision. You know, the inventory comes in, it gets dumped on this 12-foot dump table. It gets sorted into 300 brands. These phenomenal lots are built. I'm not losing any inventory. My inventory system is precision. My relationships with flea markets at vendors, incredible. You know, I got vendors at the flea market who are like, it's snowing, just come to our house. We'll hold you that. We'll hold you this. The bins.
Love that, man. When you got vendors calling you, that's a good spot to be in.
I've got people that I just have told, I want this type of train. I want this. I want this. I want this. And I go to the flea market. I open the trunk or the back of the van and I take my stuff, you know, so I have sourcers. I have so much working. And then I am like 10 p.m. at night, tired, photoed, listed, sourced. And I'm like, I'm falling asleep I've fed my kid, put her to bed. And I'm like 24 listings. I'm like 24 doesn't do it. So if you do that for long enough, you start to realize like there's just simply not enough time in the day. And there's some defect on my own self. Like I just can't rein it in. Right. So we got AI coming out, which when it gets perfected could help some scatterbrained people if you have your stuff in order. AI is not going to fix, if you're putting up crappy items, you're going to be just putting up a bunch of crappy items with AI. So I got interested in a VA after doing the research of getting a staff member here. Part of the purpose of this was I don't really want someone at the house. I want an employee. I know I love your model because you're more like, I had employees. I'm done it with the restaurant. Like you found what works for you, right?
But I would consider a contractor or something like that, where it was more of like a scalable basis where you're contracting out. I'm always looking for ways to offload parts of my business. I just don't want necessarily to handle the responsibilities of managing an employee in that way. But a VA is kind of a middle ground. So I totally
VA
see
is
that.
good middle ground because obviously in the restaurant business, I'm you. And that's what I thought here. So I did a ton of research. I ran a lot of numbers, you know, and if you're paying $20 an hour for someone, which is probably about where you got to be just to start, at least here in Colorado, you're looking at $4,000 a month. You're not talking about workers' compensation or benefits or how you're going to figure all that out.
Yeah.
And then, you're for someone that is distracted, am I going to work really great if there's some guy or some gal over here photoing and then I start you hear my long stories here. I could very easily be like, oh, those are cool shoes, you know, and just go on some random tangent. And now my employee's not working. I'm not working. So the VA idea is very fresh. I've got someone in training right now, but I'm pretty confident because I have an endless flow of inventory that's already like certain items in my store are similar to yours. Like they're not necessarily quantity one, just change it to quantity two because I take fresh photos of a lot of my items because I kind of need to for the toys at least. I've got certain items that sell 140 times a month, 120 times a month, 80 times a month, you know, the same. Now these are very low ASP. My ASP is typically 19 to 20 bucks. I mean, it's pretty low.
Yeah.
But it needs that. My business works at 40 to 50 listings a day. Not, well, I only got 10 this day and I got 30 this day. And then I look at the average for the month and I'm like, still too low, right? So I started clawing around for the employee idea because I'm like, as of now, with the level of childcare I have to do and my own dysfunction and everything I have dialed in, I'm like, my bottleneck keeps falling into like not putting enough stuff up. And I have great guys around me that are like, yeah, 35 a day, 35. And I'm like, dude, I've battled that for a really long time. It's been a very hard struggle. So obviously I looked at the AI stuff. I don't think AI is fully dialed in all the way yet, at least for toys. It's getting there. I think tech software will get there. That might open up some stuff. But I really wanted someone that I could train to identify a human being that could say, oh, this is Thomas the Train Percy, and this is the wooden railway line, and they could build me a title. And I wanted someone I could just dump because I can take thousands of photos a day. No problem. I can ship. I can list. List is where I'm struggling. So yeah, that was the goal at the VA. Definitely happy to report back on that as we move forward. But I've got someone, really great guy, interviewed, all the things, beginning work for me. And his position is basically drag the items into Google Lens or use other software like ChatGPT to identify it, title it, and list it. And very rapidly, I'm going to have probably a shipping problem, because all of a sudden I'm going to start hitting 50 items a day.
Yeah.
And then I got to ship that. So we'll wait till that problem comes. But because I have a pretty much 100% sell through in the store, if I don't list, my store rapidly disappears. It just starts going down. When I do list 40, I sell like 5 of those items the same day. Like, I'm really fast sell through here. My store turns over, every 90 days for sure, constantly. Like,
yeah. So I'm fascinated by this, man. I think so many people think about taking this jump to getting a VA. Is your plan going to be like, are you going to say, I'm going to be sending you this many photos per day? Are you going to be trying to set a goal for yourself? Or is it just going to be more like, now that limit is released, you're just going to be able to just dump photos on this VA and they're going to be producing as many as they can? Or what's the idea?
The goal is 10 a day minimum, or 10 an hour minimum, but not right away. That might be month 3.
Are you paying per hour? Sorry.
Yeah, hourly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, gotcha.
So I have a lot of, like techs in my life, a lot of guys with a lot of money and a lot of experience that are way beyond, a lot of mentors beyond tech that have Amazon businesses, and just big guys who've sold software companies. I've just got some great friends that are like beyond where I'm at. And that's where a lot of my VA information came from, was real life users. And in my opinion, about $1,000 a month for a 40-hour-a-week employee is a very good living in the Philippines. I'm not trying to underpay someone or use labor in a negative way. I don't think I could go to sleep at night if it was that way. I want someone like the guy I hired. He said that he wanted $4.30 an hour. That's what he told me he wanted. And I said, we're going to do 6. And then he said, well, I'll work graveyards so we can have the hours match. I don't mind working graveyards. I said, no, you're going to sleep with your family. I said, this is not me. I'm the boss. I'm like, this is the team. You and I are together. So that's how I want to approach it. And I told him, I'm going to do research within your country, talk to some other people. And if you guys get raises regularly like this, we're going to follow that pattern. If you're producing for me, you're going to get raises. And if I start to become wealthy, you are going to ride along that wealth train too. And whether that means 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I would love to have this guy for 10 years. I'd love to have this guy for the length of my business. If I move into real estate and different things, maybe I convert him and say, hey, I need you to help me with these contracts. I need you to help me with, but I'm more of a, I pat your back, you pat mine approach.
I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
So, but when you say VA, it's very hard for, like, if I tell like my parents, I'm getting a VA in the Philippines, like, it just, the media and the news, you kind of think about like Nike and the child sewing a.
Yeah. Honestly, I was on ChatGPT or Grok last night asking literally about VAs, about the moral implications of hiring a VA on the local economies, because I have that same initial feeling of like, oh, that seems weird. That's another human being, and yet you're paying them a third of what I'd pay someone who lives across the street from me. And it was interesting. I think at the end of the day, the answer from the AIs, at least, was in general, it can be very good for those local economies. If you're paying a living wage or higher, if it's bringing US dollars into those economies. I was talking specifically about the Philippines and Ghana. I hear about a lot as places where you can hire these English speaking and very proficient VAs to help you out in your business and pay a good wage. And it said one of the possible negative externalities might be, if there was a lot of demand locally for that kind of VA work, it might be taking those workers away. But there really often isn't that kind of demand for high-tech VA work locally, but there is in other countries. And it is, again, bringing money into those economies. And so it actually, I'm starting to change my tune a little bit. I think it was mostly been an emotional reaction to paying someone less than what it feels like should be moral. But I think I need to expand my mind a little bit. I literally just asked a couple of AIs, what are the effects on the economies of hiring somebody at these rates? And
that's a great deeper question that I didn't go into. I kind of surface level was like, what is the highest earners is how I looked at it. So I had ChatGPT create me a scale, like what's what is like, that's out here in America, like a surgeon or a brain surgeon, like where are they at? And like in the Philippines, I was trying to gauge what are the positions people want, the highest ones. And it was producing like food service worker, like a McDonald's was like $1.50 an hour, factory worker, $1 an hour. And the scale that I saw, like 6 was one below the big top. It's fascinating. Yeah, it's very hard, I guess, if you look at the deeper implications, which I think, unfortunately, that damage is already done, because when you call Verizon to pay your phone bill, you have a Filipino who's answering. That's already been done. Yeah. But that didn't mean like, hey, everyone's doing it, I want to be bad too.
Right.
But when you look at someone eye to eye, I did for 2 hours with that guy. I mean, he wanted to work, and I wanted to pay him, and I wanted to look and research, and like, I wanted to be human the whole way through. Like, hey, I noticed PayPal gives fees. Like, is that normal for you guys to get the fees and take the fee? And a lot of questions like that. Some people use like a video recording service that literally takes a photo of their screen every 10 minutes. And I went down this trail and I did a lot of research, and I understood that the Filipinos don't really like that. It's kind of an intrusion. But Americans, some of them really like it, because you're like, hey, I want to know what you're doing if I'm paying money and I can't see. But that's not my approach. I'm like based on, hey, honesty. And if I can look at the amount of listings per day, and if my mind, I want 10 an hour eventually once you're trained. If 8 hours go by, I think I should probably see the 80, but I'll use that. So if you do it in 4 hours, go ahead. Like if this guy can crank, I would hope he would be more honest and maybe say, hey, I actually can do like 12 or 13. But I have my set standards if he can meet those. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. We sat for 2 hours laughing, joking. He plays the guitar. We talked about that. And there was generally my gut, we all have it. I mean, we have the gut feeling of what's wrong and what's right. And I'm welcome. I'm sure they'll blow up your comments. And maybe there are some things we're missing, deeper implications. We can listen to those for sure. But as of now, like, you have something like Online Jobs PH, and I think I had 160 applications come through in a few days. And these people are eager to work. So does that mean they're like, dude, I don't want to do this job here. I want the e-commerce job. That's what all my friends are doing. I don't know. Why are people pursuing it, I guess, over maybe something locally? Is it because it truly is better? So I don't have all the answers, but all I know is I try to love everyone, the way I want to be loved. And could I make mistakes trying to do that? Yeah, maybe but when I talk to a lot of my high-end people that are making a lot of money, millions of dollars, they are like, yeah. And one of my guys said, $1,000 a month is a great living for a VA. And then I did the research and it matched up. So when someone said 430 is what they want, I said, no, what I've understood is that this is a great wage. So I'm going to pay you 6. And the guy was trying to hold his excitement, and he seemed pretty happy.
Wow, so, Mike, I appreciate that, man. You're actually really challenging me on that, of just hearing, because you're bringing the human side of that. Like, these are just humans, and to be able to look and, like you said, have a video call with a human being and to really figure out over the course of 2 hours, like, I think this person really does want this job. That's the beautiful part about business, is these mutually beneficial agreements like that. So
yeah, well,
so
and
challenging,
of course,
that's so cool.
I'm a bonus guy. Like, dude, if this guy starts exploding my business, the day I was on the call, I'm already thinking about Christmas. Like, wait, do the Filipinos do like Christmas? Do they do? Because why, if it's very affordable to me, what's a week's pay around Christmas? Boom, $200. Boom. But I've always been that way. My wife is in the service industry. She's a master stylist with Aveda. She does all the hair stuff. Much of our life is from people who give $100 tip and a $50 tip. And like, it's just how I was maybe raised, but I just kind of, my own conclusion is when I'm going to go eat, I'm probably going to over tip. That's just how I like to do, give and get back. So I'm already like, I'm more excited about being able to provide in this sense, where I do think there's a lot of people like, this is my VA and they're going to do it this way. And no, $6 is what they're going to get. So I think you could get a VAs that get suckier bosses. And then that's unfortunate. But I'm trying to be like the cool boss, but also be like, you have to be a boss because you don't want them to be like, this guy's easy. I'm just going to roll over him.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. I already told him, I said, day one, I said, I can't figure out raises yet, but I want to grow and I want you to make more and more money with me. I want to maybe consider bonuses. I was like, we're in the first interview. I don't have that all dialed in, but just know that my plan is to make this better and better for you as it gets better for me. So
yeah, and when the money's flowing, that's exciting, man. Yeah,
Well,
to hear if you think that is it's interesting to hear, because I think you have some unique challenges, but challenges a lot of people can relate to, where you do have a lot of inventory and are hitting a stopping point of like, how do I list this all? I'm in kind of a similar spot, and I'm curious, man. And it's an interesting time now where we're connected with the VAs and now with the AI tools, and now the VAs are using the AI tools probably, and it'd be cool to do an A/B test at one point. You could even send the batch of photos almost to a VA and to an AI service, and then kind of compare what comes back. And because it seems to be more and more of a similar service. Yeah,
that's going to be happening really soon. I think I would say, like, with me hiring a VA now is really unique because everybody's really pushing towards AI, where maybe people are going to leave their VAs.
Yeah.
But I kind of I want someone to say, I like my title to have the brand at the front. I like the manufacturer year to be at the back. And unless you build your own AI system, a lot of them are going to be a little cookie cutter, I think. We'll see how they evolve, if they'll take input. But you might have to.
Yeah, I'm wondering, will there be an AI where you can be like, here's how I want my titles eventually, and it will just learn from you? Probably someday, but that's probably years down the line.
I mean, right now, there's open source popping up on YouTube right now where you could pretty much, there's one guy just launched like a postcard lister. Here it is, free, open source. Now you have to maybe get a developer to put the screen together the way you like and pretty. Tech's got his. Tech does everything to the fullest, so I expect that's going to be phenomenal as it evolves. You got the List Easier one just is about to launch. In 1 to 2 to 3 months, there's going to be like endless options of AI you can use, either kind of built in the basement stuff that people are just doing for their own business. People are going to start pouring out free sourcing, like this guy who's trying to battle the AI in a way by saying, hey, no, this should be free. The guy, that's my opinion of him. It seems like he's trying to go, no, I'm just going to give the sourcing. I'm going to give the source code. But an average person like me, I'm like, I can barely even know what source code is.
Yeah.
But for the people who can go, oh, thank you for the head start, I'll take the source code and I'll create an AI system for my business. And then I won't pay like a tech or a List Easier company. But there's people like me, like, I just want it all, dude, beautiful and pretty, and I'll pay to have
for the service. Yeah, I agree, man. That's the business mindset.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. We're in an interesting spot coming up. I think it's going to be an interesting couple of years for the resellers that are set up to handle this like a business, like you and I are, with the inventory coming in. The junk's not going anywhere, but I think the marketplaces and our tools are only increasing. And so I'm excited to see where it goes, man. I think even in the eBay app itself, it's getting faster and quicker. And the AI is just getting integrated into so many more things. I think eventually you'll just be taking a picture on the eBay app, and it'll be doing all that stuff for you. Give it a year, probably.
Yeah, it's going to be. I feel like I don't want to be super selfish. I know I've talked a ton. I'd like you to talk a little more, and I don't know how much time we have. We can wrap up soon or whatever. Sure. But I still, although you call yourself scatterbrained, and maybe you do think you are still self-diagnosed ADHD, feel like you're still quite a bit more productive than I am. And you are someone that I admire. I'm like, dude, he seems like he's just dialing in. He's locking in. He's getting, and what fascinated me about you is you have a similar thing than I do. Like, not to say clothing, people have it easy, but a shirt's a shirt is a shirt is a shirt is a shirt. Then you have a long sleeve shirt, and then you have a button up, and it feels kind of like that is more streamlined than I have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation 3, I have a remote control, I have a cord, I have a Wii remote. It feels like you have a harder business than clothing. Sorry to upset clothing people. And then for toys, I have, this needs battery. This needs the corrosion removed. This does have a bug in it. This is broken. This Mighty Max set is supposed to have 3 figures, 2 missiles, and a little cord that attaches from here to here. And I'm having to go, instead of listing the Polo Ralph Lauren, I'm like, okay, it has this figure weight. It's missing that guy. I have to put in the listing. It's missing this missile. The cord is broken. The battery has... And I'm watching you, and that's half the reason I got to liking you is like, dude, this guy's making a lot of money. He's hitting $1,000 days, he has hard stuff to do. So I want to, and again, I don't want to take much, I don't know how much time you have, but I want to not make it all about me. I talk a lot and
No, this has been great, man. No, but thank you.
love to
Yeah.
talk, but I'm like, want to make sure I'm not totally one-sided. So how are you? Because you kind of seem like you're running like a 9 to 5er, and then you're off to dinner with the family and your work is done, like hardline, done. How are you? Has your wife put down some rules like dinner's at 5, you better be done? Or have you created rules? How are you getting all your stuff done? What tips are you turning off your phone? Does the wife know that you better be here at 6 p.m. for dinner, or else? How are you doing it? Because with my wife sort of working like a retail type hours in a way because of hair salon, and the little one that I have, like I do have a little mixed structure I'm battling, which I don't think helps me. How are you doing it? I want to know, like, I know you did a day in the life, but like if you just had to explain, this is how I get my photos done and my listings done and my putting all the Wii remotes together and washing this, and how are you getting that done so consistently? And then maybe you take a day or two off, but then you jump back on and you hit 50 or 60 or 70 listings in one day that makes up for the 2 days you did take off. I kind of feel like you are more skilled and maybe less skilled,
No.
or you just work harder at it. I don't know. How have you done it?
No, we just got different brains, man. Thank you. You know, I feel very lucky in some ways that I think I have a bit more, maybe just like a sampler platter of just like a little bit of ADD and a little bit of OCD. You know, I had a germaphobe stage in my life and a little bit of social awkwardness and like delayed social development into my late teens and early 20s. So I have a little bit of a sampler platter, and definitely I can relate so much to the ADD. But I think one of my core issues of my brain is just this almost workaholic nature that I've struggled with my entire life. So I don't always have the best boundaries. It's something that I have to talk about and be good about. And I'm constantly reminding myself to put the phone down around the kids and that it is family time. And I need to tell myself to turn off, because naturally my tendency is just to be going 24/7. I've been running my own businesses for so long, and people talk about Protestant work ethic. Like my dad was and still is literally a Protestant pastor.
Nice,
and,
cool.
not that he was like, he's actually really inspirational and not like a hard driving person at all. So it wasn't him, but I think just the culture that I've been around is that work is good and you're supposed to work. And so I've always had some need to put some effort into something. So while I've always had the squirrel brain, I've also always been putting in that 40 hours and then just letting my squirrel brain take over at night and think about all the businesses I could start and get into affiliate marketing and all the million different, and I did AliExpress private. I've done all that stuff, and it's all, I hardly even think about it, but yeah, I've tried so many of those things, and you fail and you just keep moving. But at the core of it was always that I just need to work, that need to feel like Thomas the Tank Engine. The more I get older, I feel like I just relate to just that need to feel useful. And so even early on in eBay, as I was struggling, I really internalized when Tech and Sports and Chris Daily Refinement were talking about 30 items a day being kind of the sweet spot for like the solo. And I was like, I want to do this full time. So from the very beginning, my core is like, I got to get my items listed. And it's always been 30-ish. Now it's more like 35, but I really don't hold myself to that. Maybe it's getting closer to 40 some days, but just like, I got to get my items listed. That is the only way this business moves forward. So I'm just constantly figuring out the roadblocks to that. And often it is my own brain. There's so many tricks I have to do. For me, I'm very motivated by cleanliness. I find that my brain kind of reflects my surroundings. So if things are cluttered, my brain gets cluttered, but I can kind of hack that a little bit, where I just bring out my death pile in the middle of my room. I don't have death piles. I just have items I need to list, and I just put it right here. And then I'm staring at it all day. And sometimes that could be negative. I'm kind of like, but I've just learned how to use the way that my brain works. And then I almost convince myself like, oh, I got to get my packages done, but I'm just going to clean these items up right here. And really, I'm going to list them, because the easiest thing to do is just to list them and put them away in the box. I don't want to actually. So I just basically can like trick myself into listing $500 or $1,000 worth of items before I get to my packages that I already have here. Cause I'm like, well, I just want to clean up the room a little bit. So I'm always kind of looking for the hacks, but I think I think growing up and having Heather as my wife has really reined in that squirrel brain where I was always doing side hustles. I was always doing side businesses, but it was not till I got together with her and we started our first food cart that we, and I mean she mostly, wrote a business plan. She filed for an LLC. She got advice from real business advisors from the School of Business at our local college and like really helped me take it to the next level of like, no, this is our life. And it's more than just the next shiny object. Like I do want to build a life with you and a career. And so I got to think a little bit further ahead than just like, what's the next fun thing? So I think I got to give a lot of credit to Heather there too, of just like reining in that side of me, while at the same time allowing some of me to still remain that entrepreneur. And I'm always looking for the next thing and the next opportunity. I'm always checking out the next AI tool. But at the core of it, I'm like, I gotta work my job. And some part of that is probably something I need to talk through in therapy, like probably some deep inadequacy, but also just recognizing that like businesses take work, and especially as a solo entrepreneur, like you got to put the work in, and often it's monotonous, and so much of my job is so monotonous, and it's just doing the same thing every day, and it's about finding the podcast and the tech and sports group calls like the one that you host, just like anything to put in my ears to help me feel normal and surrounded by coworkers, and I've just figured out all the tricks, I guess. So I want to talk to you more. We're gonna have to do a second episode. So I want to start wrapping up, but thank you, man. What a thoughtful question. Yeah, I don't know, man. I appreciate that. I don't know if that was helpful at all.
No, it really is. I think, and just to keep it short, I think for me, I'm with you. Nonstop work ethic, like a little misdirected for me, and that's my. So to wrap it up with that, my battle has been I don't watch. I mean, maybe at the end of the night, I'm watching like the news or something, but I don't watch TV. I don't settle for movies. I don't really play video. Like it's all work all the time. And just like you said, Thomas, go, go, go. But there's some misfiring in that for me. So people come and like, wow, beautiful office, incredible organization system, but there's still some misfiring. So I think when I watch you and I'm like, he has that important part dialed in. He does. He is go, go, go. He is thinking of this, thinking of that. So always been an inspiration to me to watch you and other people. And I've seen the other guys who list daily, but they don't have enough. They're actually more boring. Like they just, 30 day, 30 day, 30 day. Their inventory is less exciting than yours. I've just been fascinated. Like, man, he's doing it. So I that's where I could land is same drive, nonstop worker, but realizing there's those holes and where things are not working and what I'm good at. Like, and that might be like great systems in place all around me, but a few failures. And that's where I'm pursuing, like have begun to pursue, like I could probably use a helper. And that might be this VA that will allow me to start producing the 50 items a day. And maybe I'll pursue some AI. And then I'll just continually try to get better. I can do 60 listings in a day if everything lines up. But when I do struggle to get to that point to where everything lines up. So
dude, that's like my whole I feel like that you've basically summed up my entire existence right now is like trying to get everything lined up so I can have a day where I just list all day.
Yeah.
And that means just doing everything else ahead of time or planning or offloading it to employees like you're saying. But like it required, like nobody's going to do it for you, man. That is tough.
I
feel like we've had so much fun talking. I feel like we could talk for hours. I have a whole list of questions. I barely got into any of them, and that's great. I think we'll have to do it. We'll have to do a follow-up at some point.
Yeah, we can follow up.
Is there anything else that you wanted to address? I have one final question for you, but is there anything else you want to do?
I just was I put in my notes, like someone like me or someone that's ADHD, a good tip is to create a not to-do list. Because a lot of times, and just sort of that eat that frog mentality is what I try to do. Like my frog is, I got to get the listings up, but I am really bound to be like, I should shift that over there. And I think my chair would be better over here. And then I'll move this over there. And I can't start working until this is perfect and clean. Like it's been helpful to be like a not to-do list. And another thing I've heard is success is a subtractive process, not an additive process. Dialing everything down to where, like for me, listing, as you said, is what eBay needs. It's the most important thing. So thinking that of as like always trying to add has been destructive to me. If I can just dial in the simple things, you source the inventory, you list the inventory, you ship the inventory, but you take that go Thomas brain and it explodes a little bit with me. So a lot of that stuff, another thing would be like, just start with eat the frog, start with the hardest task. So for those of you that are struggling with listing, you gotta you got to make that your win. And that's where I'm working really hard at making like the listing my win, my hard thing that I do get done, because I will fill the day up with productive stuff, but that doesn't go to the bank account always. So anyways,
I love that. I mean, I was going to ask you if you had any advice for maybe younger resellers who struggle with this kind of stuff. So you're already you're preaching, man. I love this, but I want to dig in a little more. Like when you talk about eating the frog, what do your frogs look like? What are the hard tasks that you struggle with that you know you need to get done as a business owner in your spot? What's your frog typically look like?
well, I mean, that is right now in this conversation, it's always been listing, because I'm not producing enough. And if you look at your business and you just, anyone step back from your business and define, I have it in my notes, define the one thing that is going to move you forward the most. If you look back at your business and all the chaos that's going around, what is the one thing that really has to be done to move the business forward the most? And I've kind of reverse engineered. That's why, like, I've got an amazing brand, but now I really woke up to be like, dude, you've piddled and done so much little. I've built a cool thing, but kind of in reverse. So now that's where I kind of was like, okay, my inventory is perfect, and this is, but now I just need to list. And it's like the dirty desk. It's like, so you, as a new person, you have to get all your basics. You got to know how, you got to have your shipping table ready. You have to have your boxes that you need to ship. You got to get an inventory system, and that can all be built out with like 5-a-day listings. Like, then as you increase, but what's weird about me, it's like, I'm ready for, like, you could snap, if I could snap my fingers and 60 listings go up a day, my entire business is ready for that. It's just, I'm with my own defects and kind of some part-time hours, because I'm always doing family stuff, and like my wife works full time. A lot of hours are spent just doing that stuff, that when I dial into eBay, I'm running out of time, and I did it by my inventory. I did sort it all into the brands. I did photograph it, and then we're running into those late night hours and the listings are falling short. Not to make excuses, but like, there is a point where you kind of realize, maybe for me at least, like, I'm a great candidate for a helper. And that's probably where the VA came about, because I'm like, I'm actually doing my eBay. It's not like there's a lot of defects. I'm not shipping things late. I'm not losing inventory. I know everything about every toy there is. I have all my sourcing connections. Like, I could get 80 listings a day, every day. It's all around me. It's pouring in. But my bottleneck is listing, probably the most crucial thing. And a lot of people are just like, dude, just list. Why aren't you listing? And like, it's not happening, right? Like, so anyways, I think people need to kind of define what keeps hindering your business. What's that one thing? And for an ADHD brain, you need to figure that out. And then if you're still keep hitting that with the hammer, because I've defined my one thing and I'm like, wait, still. So that's where I've kind of expanded to be like, I just think I'm going to get another guy, another human, a friend to help me
really
out.
In such a unique spot. You've built the system to bring in the 60 items a day, to ship and process, and you have one job that you're ready to start contracting out. I think you're in a pretty uniquely awesome spot to start hiring. Man. I'm pretty excited for you. Well, yeah, but you've built the systems now. So many people hire a VA when they're barely have the systems built to make enough profit for themselves. And now they're signing themselves up to give most of that away to somebody else, hoping that they're going to immediately double in sales in every way. And that is plausible, but it's hard to build those systems. Often you hit roadblocks, like, how do I source twice as many items? That's often the hardest part.
Yeah.
Shipping and processing can be harder, but those are more solvable problems immediately. But you've already built some of those systems.
Yeah,
you have people calling you.
You drop a VA in and he starts doing 80 listings a day, you're going to be out of inventory in 3 days.
Yeah.
Where are you going to get it? Then what are you going to do? You're going to go to the thrift store for 12 hours a day to start getting. Me, it's just like a phone call. I haven't even looked at, like, there's a lot of bulk options and truckloads and things I can experiment with, but it's just endless for me. The bins alone are very productive for me. I do a mix of the bins, the thrift store, and then I have several vendors at the flea market that hold stuff. But yeah, so like, cool. we could go forever, and I know your time's valuable.
Hours, yeah. No, I love it, man. I'm going to get back to dinner with the family, or the lunch with the family soon. But man, Mike, thank you so much for joining me, man. I think we could talk for hours. We'll have to do this again. Is there any socials you want to put up? Anywhere where people can follow you or anything? Or
Eventually on this YouTube, I want to do more like almost like a faceless YouTube. I want to just do some of the sourcing videos where I have the Ray-Ban glasses. I want to kind of just pick items and just show like paid this, sold this eventually on YouTube. But no, I don't really have anything. YouTube people could follow, but there's not much content coming yet because I need to focus.
I love that. Good.
And I'm
Good
an appreciation of your dad. I'm a church guy. I started that much later in life. I did a pretty wild, lucky to be here, lucky to be alive kind of guy with all the crazy things I did. And I found a path, similar to your father. So
cool. Wow, he's an amazing guy.
That God and everything is really important to me as well. But whatever works for you, you just got to find your way. And Joe is phenomenal. So he's the guy to watch, not me.
Oh, Mike, you're great, man. Happy to call you a friend and hope to feature you more on this channel. I think you have so much to share. I think the comment section here is going to be really fun down below this video. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with this stuff, man. People who have made it later on in life, and then you realize, wait, I'm starting to really resonate with all these other people talking about ADD or ADHD. So yeah, I love that you're so open about that. You kind of change the branding just to really embrace that. Like we're all coming from different perspectives, man. I think it's so helpful to hear that.
Diet, exercise, sleep are the 3 natural remedies for ADHD. Hard to do. All of those are pretty hard to do, though. So anyways, don't let the hard days win. Don't let the hard days win if you have them. And man, great for talking to you. And let's do it again for sure. I'm honored to be on here. You're like my favorite dude. There's just something about you. You got incredible energy. And that's why people are sitting for, like, I ship my items and just listen to you for the whole hour. And it actually is one of my like ADHD hacks, because for some reason I can do certain tasks while listening, and listening to you is one of those things. So,
Mike, thank you, man. I'm smiling from ear to ear over here. Happy to call you a friend, my man. So thank you so much, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll have to do this again super soon.
All right, buddy.
I'm Joe. This is Mike. All right. Thank you, man. And we'll see you next time.